Welcome to Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church. Our service today is called Widening the Circle of Concern. Good morning. I am the Reverend Dr. Suzanne Intriligator. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And it's a great day to be alive. Happy Super Bowl Sunday to those who are observing this national semi-holiday. To others, I say happy Superb Owl Sunday. Did you see what I did there? I moved the space between the words from Super Bowl to Superb Owl. Yeah, believe it or not, there's actually a growing group of people out there. Maybe they're only my friends, but there are people who choose to protest today's festivities by substituting and sharing cool stories about nocturnal birds of prey. Superb Owl Sunday. Wherever you stand on this controversy, however you may feel about Tom Brady or about the Eastern barn owl, you are welcome to join us for worship this morning. Our chat box host today is Ginger Lazarus. Thank you, Ginger. She will be sharing some helpful links in the chat box, including one right now to the welcome page on our website, where you can find out more about us if you're visiting. You can also use the chat box too to say hello to people, and please feel welcome to stay afterward for our virtual coffee hour. Boy, oh boy, so much is going on at church. It's hard to get it all in here. So please read your midweek updates. We have a jam-packed February for you. First, our winter coat drive is now in full swing. If you've got warm stuff or toiletries to donate to our friends at the Malden Warming Center, please see the info in the weekly newsletter or on the website at melroseuu.org. Second, all through February, registration is open for Beloved Conversations, which is a national UU online program that teaches anti-racism as a spiritual discipline. Katie and I have signed up, plus 2 or 3 other members of the congregation. We'd love to get to 10, and we can help you with a scholarship if the tuition cost is an issue for you. You can get more info and a link in the midweek update and on the website. Third, next Sunday, Valentine's Day, we will express our love for one another by continuing and deepening our church-wide conversation about gender. We're going to have a special guest preacher, a non-binary person, who will lead us in an awesome worship about talking and listening with empathy. Then we'll break for coffee hour and lunch and return for a Zoom workshop from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. Please put it on your calendars. Then, on the following Wednesday, we'll gather for a special congregational meeting. Here with more details on that meeting is our church president, Dan Griscom. Dan, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. The board has called a special meeting of the congregation to be held on Wednesday, February 17th at 8 p.m. on Zoom. The topic is our use of a federal PPP grant that we received last year. The board is proposing that we donate this unearned money to a local charity, but it is up to the congregation to decide. Please note that to be eligible vote, here's my voter here, you must have signed the membership book and made a recorded financial contribution between February 18th, 2019 and January 19th, 2021. I'll send out an email to the congregation list with the full details this afternoon. I look forward to seeing you all there, and thanks.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, now, finally, one more thing in February I want to make sure you know about. After the congregational meeting, we've got our big annual church auction coming up, which will be held on Zoom. Here with an update about the auction is Marie McQuaid.
It's Marie McQuaid from the Auction Committee. For this year's live auction party, which will be on Saturday, February 27th at 7 p.m., we thought everyone would like to get away from 2021 for a couple of hours. For the party, we invite you to jump into your time machine and travel to another dimension. Woo!
Count me in.
We encourage you to dress as your favorite decade. Of course, that's totally optional, but there will be a prize for best costume.
Groovy.
If you buy your ticket by February 21, you'll receive a party package delivered to your home, if you're local. This year, we have a couple of special auctioneers who will be visiting us from another time. They'll be facilitating the bidding on the amazing items that all of you have so generously donated. The party's going to be interactive and fun. You don't want to miss it. Look in the chat box below for a link to the auction website and for the email for the auction committee. Please contact us if you have any questions. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and we hope to see you at the party. Woo!
Woohoo! Purple haze.
Woohoo! Woohoo! Awesome. Thanks, Marie. Our worship theme for February is Beloved Community. So now this month is a really good time to think about our church family, about how we care for one another, and about how our faith calls us to widen that circle of care to include all our brothers and sisters and siblings. That's what we're talking about today. Back in 2017, after yet another big controversy around racism within our denomination, the UUA appointed a body of 7 people called the Commission on Institutional Change and gave them an impossible task, which they, over a period of 3 years, actually achieved. It's an incredible accomplishment, and it's going to take us as a congregation a long while to unpack it and to bring it into our workings. Today is just a first step in that process. So WUUs, just so you know, asked the commission to fully, once and for all, investigate systemic and structural racism within our faith and to tell us how to fix it. They put out calls, they held focus groups and listening circles, they collected 1,100 testimonies and analyzed them for patterns and themes. Together, the commission, just 7 people, built a landmark 200-page report published at GA last June. It has 34 recommendations with 117 action steps. Wow. Don't worry, today your job is just to listen, to absorb, to pay attention to what you feel in your body as you listen, to open your mind and your heart. I built today's service as an entry point for us, as an on-ramp we can take together on this larger road toward change. If you'd like to discuss the service, please feel free to stay in the main room afterward, where I'll be and we can talk about it, or fill in the feedback form on the website, or join us on the Wednesday worship chat at noon on Zoom. All those links are on the website and in the newsletter, and Ginger can also put them in the chat for you. So let's get going today by greeting one another in gallery view, where you can wave, send virtual hugs, or type in Happy Superb Owl Sunday. Your choice. Hi, everybody. Oh, wow, yay, hi, people. Look at everybody. Hi, everyone. It's so good to see your faces. Boy, I wish we were all here in person together. Hi. Wonderful. Thank you all for coming. Dina says, Happy Superb Owl Sunday. Thank you, Dina. Same to you. All right. Excellent. For our introit this morning, it's another favorite. Come, come, whoever you are. Thank you, Tara and David, and Tenby. Today's call to worship will be given by one of the members of the Commission on Institutional Change.
I'm the Reverend Dr. Natalie Fenimore, she, her, hers. I invite you to open your hearts and minds to a spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, God of many names and one abiding love, love which calls us to cry for justice, to move our bodies in action, to move our faith toward transformation. Let us not stand aside and miss this moment. This moment is not the only moment. It is not the final moment. But today is our moment. Today is our day. We pray that we are brave enough and faithful enough to answer the call of this moment, the call to love and justice in the midst of pandemic fear, in the midst of hurt and pain and grief over the killing of Black people. In this moment, our moment, may we be brave enough, may we be faithful enough to do what only we can do, which only we together can accomplish. Add your voice, add your thoughts, add your heart to the list of those who have marched forward, to those who refuse to die. So may it be. Amen.
Thank you. And now, along with UUs everywhere, I light the symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice. This morning, Nancy Free, one of our members who volunteers at the Malden Warming Center and serves on our immigration ministry team, will give our chalice lighting reading. Take it away, Nancy.
Nancy, you're muted.
The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us that we are not struggling alone for justice, but as members of a larger community. This religious community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow and to see all that must be seen, and our strength is too limited for all that must be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed.
Thank you, Nancy. And now our opening hymn.
Please join me in our opening hymn, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Thank you, Tara. And now let us join together in the words of our covenant, followed by our song of aspiration. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God. Amen. And now it's time for our story. This week, Katie shares a famous literary folk tale originally written by Hans Christian Andersen.
Many years ago, there was an emperor who only cared about being well dressed. He would spend all of his time and all of his money on it. One day, two visitors came to court, and they said that they were weavers and that they could make the emperor a suit out of the most magnificent cloth with splendid colors and beautiful patterns. And not only that, but it was a magic cloth that could only be seen by those who were very clever and were fit for their office. The emperor thought that having a suit like this would be splendid and that he must have it at once. He ordered large sums of money and gave it to the weavers to set up empty looms and began to pretend to work. After a bit of time, the emperor decided that he wanted to know how it was going, but he was afraid that if he couldn't see it, that would mean that he was foolish or unfit for his office. So he sent his minister to go take a look. The minister walked in and he looked at the empty looms and thought, oh dear, I must be really foolish or unfit for my office, for I can see nothing on the looms at all. And the weavers asked him what he thought of the designs that they had made. And he said, oh, beautiful, splendid. I'm going to go tell the emperor at once. The emperor was pleased with the report, and he decided, after a bit more time, he sent an officer. And of course, the same thing happened. Then the emperor decided that he wanted to go take a look at the cloth while it was still on the looms. When he got down there, the emperor and his officer pointed at the empty loom saying, look at this beautiful colors and the splendid designs. Is it not extraordinary? The emperor could see nothing. And he thought, how terrible, I must be either incredibly foolish or unfit to be emperor. I can't let anybody know. So he said, oh, magnificent, excellent, charming, wonderful, claimed everyone in the court that was with him, even though they were straining their eyes to see something on these empty looms. The weavers worked very busily, cutting the air with their scissors, sewing with needles that had no thread in them at all. And then it finally exclaimed, look, the emperor's suit is ready. Look at these trousers and this coat. And here is the scarf. Magnificent, splendid. They had the emperor undress and they pretended to put the coat and the trousers on him, and he turned around in the mirror pretending to admire himself in this beautiful cloth which he could not see. Then it was time for the procession. And he went out under the canopy, the lords of the bedchamber making a great show of pretending to hold up this magnificent train that was not there. And he walked through the town, and all the people lined up on the side of the street said, "Oh, how beautiful are these royal robes that our emperor is wearing." One child said, "But the emperor has nothing on at all." And it spread from one person to another until everyone was exclaiming, "The emperor has nothing on at all." The emperor felt very silly, for he knew that the people were right. The procession has started and it must go on now. So the lords of the bedchamber and the emperor all held their heads high, and the lords of the bedchamber took even greater trouble to pretend to hold up the train, which wasn't there at all. I think most of us, when we hear the emperor's new clothes, want to relate most to that child, the one who sees the truth of what's happening and says, "This isn't right. The emperor has no clothes on." And I wonder if we can think of times that we've been in that position, where we've been brave enough to speak the truth about something, even when everyone else around us was saying something completely different. Because I think we've all been there. I think we've all had at least one instance of being able to do that. But I also wonder if you can think of times that you've been like the minister and the officer and all the other people of the court and all the other people of the city who are saying, "Yes, these are magnificent clothes," and speaking something that doesn't feel right inside because we're afraid of looking foolish or afraid of losing something important to us by speaking the truth. And I also wonder if you can think of times where you've maybe been more like the emperor, walking down the street with no clothes on while everyone is telling you how beautiful these non-existent clothes look. And I wonder how we respond when somebody does speak the truth about what's going on with us, when somebody does tell us that we have no clothes on. How do we respond and how do we react? Because the truth is that we have all been the little child speaking the truth, and we have all been the bystanders, the officers, the court, saying what other people want us to say. And we have all been the emperor walking down the street with no clothes.
I was muted there for a second. Thank you, Katie. And now it's time for our prayer time together. Every Sunday in our worship service, we set aside a time for quiet reflection, a time to connect with our innermost needs and longings. Please now, settle into your chair and breathe with me. First, as a way into our prayer time, we'll share in our centering song. After that, we'll sit together in silence for a few moments. Then we'll speak our joys and sorrows, and I will lead us in a prayer. First, today's centering song, which reflects February's worship theme, Beloved Community. This month, we've chosen a verse from one of our hymns, Love Makes a Bridge. Today, Tara will sing it for you, and you can join in as you like. In coming weeks, we'll hear the same piece sung by our choir. After the song, we'll join together in 2 minutes of shared silence.
Love makes a bridge from heart to heart and head to hand. Love bites away when laws are blind and freedom bend. Love breaks the walls of language, gender, class, and age. Love gives us wings to slip the bars of every cage.
And every Sunday, we share a ritual with one another. We speak the personal milestones of our lives, our joys and sorrows, so that we can connect and companion one another. First, if you have a sorrow to share today, please type it into the chat box and I will read them aloud. From James I, a candle of concern for our nephew Leo, who after the car accident 3 weeks ago had brain and shoulder surgery about a week ago, keeping him in our thoughts and prayers for a quick and full recovery. From Dan Griscom, a concern, while thousands of Americans are being vaccinated every day, in poor countries, the rate is far, far lower. From Rebecca Mooney, please say a prayer for my 91-year-old mom, Ann Chern, who was hospitalized in California on Tuesday. She has a serious heart condition that would require surgery to fix, but it's too risky at her age. It's hard to be so far away from her. From Jeannie and Dave, sorrow, our daughter Allison lost her dear friend and coworker on this past Friday. Her name was Laura. This candle is for both of them. Do we have any other sorrows today? Now let us take a moment to lift up together all these sorrows, to hold them in our minds with compassion. Let us send out our support and our help to all who have spoken and all who are troubled today. Let them feel our care and our love. I will now light one candle as a beacon of care for all the sorrows spoken and unspoken today.
Reverend Suzanne, there's one more from
Thank
Paul and Michelle.
Thank you. I didn't see that one. From Paul and Michelle. A candle of remembrance for our brothers, Richard and Mark, who passed away 1 year apart on February 6th. Thanks. And now, if you have any joys to share, could you please type them into the chat box now? From Joyce R., a candle of joy for scientists, vaccines, and being one step closer to fewer restrictions. From the Goss family to everyone, a candle of joy and gratitude for the care team at church and the wonderful meals, gifts, and well wishes we have received from the church community over the birth of our daughter, Chloe Juliet. 3-week-old Chloe is a happy, healthy baby, and we can't wait for you to meet her. From Dan Franklin, a candle of joy for my mother, 88, who received her second dose of the vaccine this past Tuesday. From James I, joy. Both my mom and my wife had their first COVID vaccine shots in the last week for different phases and categories. Yes, it is true. I did have a first shot of the vaccine. Clergy was included in group 1, and I feel very blessed about that because I hope to be able to be visiting some of you soon and taking care of people who need it. Any other joys today? I don't see any, so I ask us to join together in prayer. By sharing with us these joys, you enrich our ties to one another and you remind us of the joy of living. We are so grateful. I now light one more candle to shine out our thanks for all the blessings shared here this morning. Please join me in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, you bless us now with yet another day, another chance at living, at loving, at learning. Today is another chance at gratitude for these bodies, these breaths, these bare beginnings of wisdom, of knowledge, of hope. Please hear our longings this day, our need for love, for connection, for forgiveness. Please give us, O God, another chance to make amends, to make whole, to make holy. We are learning people, O God, engaged in holy transformation, holy becoming. And so we are today and all days, playing all the parts simultaneously. We are in our learning the brave child and the frightened yes man and the naked emperor. We are all of us when we are open to new and hard learning, We are all brave and scared, wise and vulnerable, fearful and fearsome. Today, let us breathe into our new becoming. Today, let us hold ourselves and one another in gentle compassion. Today, let us trust one another and ourselves. Amen. Now it's time for our offertory. If you were moved by our worship this morning, I invite you to donate using the orange button in the top right corner of our homepage at melroseuu.org. That will take you to a new page on the website that explains some updates in our donation process. For February, our giving partner chosen by our anti-racism team is the Scholarship Fund set up by the Friends of Melrose Metco. Half of our collection marked plate this month will go to support college costs for outstanding Boston-based graduates of Melrose High. For our offertory music this morning, please enjoy this gorgeous and uplifting piece from our friends at the First Unitarian Congregational Society of Brooklyn, New York.
We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying till we all can get along, till the world can sing our song. We will not stop shouting. We will not stop shouting. We will not stop shouting. Shouting right from wrong till the world can sing our song. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing till the world can hear our song, till the world can sing along.
Thanks for sharing that, Josh. In place of our usual reading and sermon today, we will be listening together to pieces from Widening the Circle of Concern, report of the UUA Commission on Institutional Change, published in June 2020. First, 4 members of our congregation will give voice to 4 of the 1,100 testimonies provided to the Commission by UUs across the country. Our job today is to listen, to hear, and to take in. After these 4 testimonies, we will hear from the Reverend Leslie Takahashi, the chair of the Commission. Reader 1, would you please go ahead now?
I am an African-American woman who has been a UU for over 30 years, much of it spent in leadership positions at the congregational, district, regional, and national levels. I have experienced microaggressions at all these levels. Some examples. Number 1, the number of times white people clutched their purses closer when I sat next to them. 2, a retired UU professional asked my advice about whether to use a skit based on Driving Miss Daisy in our stewardship kickoff event. 3, during the entertainment portion of our church's auctions, a church leader played Jump Jim Crow on a banjo. When challenged, she justified her actions on the basis of historical accuracy. I had to press the minister to intervene and mediate between us. During the bidding on a vacation in Puerto Rico, a member inquired about the capacity and another member shouted out, "It was Puerto Rico, so there could be 22 to a room." At an auction themed around the 60s, there was no mention of Motown or any traditional aspect of Black culture. Number 4, at my very first meeting of a now dissolved district board, a minister made a joke about 4/5 of a person. No one challenged him. During another district gathering involving a museum tour, a UU who was acting as a docent asked me if I'd ever tried wearing a yoke, like the ones farmers use to pull oxen. I left the premises. All of the other members of the gathering said nothing. Number 5, on my first visit to my church of 19 years, I was met on the front deck by a member asking if she could help me. What she obviously meant was that I must be in the wrong place. I continue as a member of that church. I'm determined to sit at the table and not below the salt. But oh, how I need the healing spaces provided by BLUU and other explicitly Black or POC spaces to heal from these events. I could go on.
Reader number 2, go ahead.
I joined my local UU church after meeting some UUs at a Black Lives Matter rally after a local unarmed Black man was killed. I did some online research and picked my home church because they had information about becoming a welcoming congregation on their website. After a couple of months of attending service and a book club, the minister asked me to join the board. I thought this was kind of rushed. At the book club, I'd noticed that whenever any question about people of color came up, I was the one everybody turned to look at. I'm Indian. It was funny considering that my suggestion that we add pronouns to our name tags was dismissed by the woman heading the LGBTQ Council, even though I am also queer. I thought I could do some good on the board as a board member, so I agreed. Despite reluctance by some established church leaders, we participated in the white supremacy teach-in, though even then our involvement was limited to a single service and reflection. At the following board meeting, I inquired about how we planned to implement the recommendations from the teach-in, adopting the 8th principle and doing a church-wide racism audit. Our outgoing settled minister shut down the conversation, and the interim minister said she wanted to wait until she'd gotten to know the congregation. The next month, our interim said again that she wanted more time. At the following meeting, the issue was pushed to the end of the agenda and we ran out of time. Leading up to the next meeting, I wrote 2 emails asking for the issue to be placed on the meeting agenda. Both emails were ignored before they finally responded to a third. At the meeting, I decided to bring up my concerns about how the recommendations had been handled, especially considering that an environmental justice practice had passed easily and with no similar delays. The board secretary, a white woman, immediately centered herself and her own discomfort, framing the situation as an attack by me.
Thank you. We can
It
look
was
at
left
that later.
unresolved at the end of the meeting. It was extremely uncomfortable for me. During this period, my relationship with the board members soured, and several church members engaged in a whisper campaign against me. And one member joked that I had issued a fatwa against mentioning US presidents in sermons. Unwilling to encounter this on Sunday mornings, I stopped attending this church.
Reader number 3.
While I have experienced harm in various ways as a Black person within Unitarian Universalism, most of the harm done to me has been from my fellow UU ministers, despite their lofty declarations of collegiality. During seminary, I was called a quota filler. I was told it would be easier if I were not there. I have spent several different ministers' meetings listening to white colleagues compete with one another over the numbers of Black members at their churches. I was asked by a colleague during ministry days to park his car. He tried to hand his keys over even though I was wearing a GA badge and had known him for years. I was invited to preach at a colleague's church, and he put a fellow woman of color colleague's picture on the front cover with my name. We have 2 levels of fellowship for ministers in the UUA. For years, colleagues would ask about my level and visibly doubt that I could have earned full fellowship. On at least 2 occasions, colleagues have argued that they know more about the experience of racism and oppression than I do, as they marched with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and one had worked with Nelson Mandela. Many colleagues have told me that I am being intimidating and that I should assume goodwill. Many of the candidates for ministry used the words Black and dark in negative ways. When I asked them what their theology of darkness was, they said things like the absence of God, evil, and sinful. When I pressed them about the impact this might have on members of their congregation who identified as Black or brown, a white male colleague reprimanded me and defended this use of language and wouldn't back down until a white female colleague affirmed what I was saying.
I came into Unitarian Universalism because I was queer. Sure, I no longer believed in the God of the church where I was born, but I probably would have stayed for the music and the people and community if I hadn't been a lesbian. That was non-negotiable. When I came into my first UU congregation, someone asked me if I wouldn't be more comfortable down the street at the Catholic church. On my second visit, someone asked if they could touch my hair to see how it felt. The message of the worship service about how we all have worth and dignity, though, that spoke to me. The service the next week was about racial justice and immigration, and I wanted to come back, and I brought my kids. Pretty soon, I was asked to be on the membership committee and then the religious education committee and the board. We had districts back then, and I was asked to be on the district board as well. At my first district meeting, someone brought up their concerns that the site that we had chosen for our conference was in a mixed neighborhood, and they wanted to be sure people would be safe. I lost it, and we had to call in a consultant from the UUA staff to deal with the situation. But that person seemed like she had never been part of a conversation about race before. When she got nervous, she used the term colored people instead of people of color. A couple of the other board members defended her, saying it was just words. I ended up taking over the session and facilitating the conversation. When a job working for the district opened up, I applied and got it. My bilingualism was sometimes welcomed, but my biculturalism and my ideas on how to accomplish the objectives within my responsibility were consistently unwelcome. I had to visit a lot of churches. It was troubling the way the Black and African diaspora music is appropriated within UU churches, many times as a way to perform multiculturalism. I had a lot of background in organizational development. One time I showed up to help a congregation deal with a problem with their finances, and an older white man said, "We don't need someone to talk to us about race relations. We need someone who understands numbers." A younger board member stepped in and called him in. However, that incident had so many other little jabs stuck with it. And that incident and so many other little jabs stuck with me. Eventually, I became a minister and I went into mega debt to get through. My first cycle of candidating, I was asked to candidate in 5 different places, but wasn't offered a call. The next year, I was called into a small congregation that had 3 ministers in 5 years. They had no board policies and made a stink when I tried to get them to put some in place. I lasted there for 4 years, working around the clock. When I left, I felt beaten up. One of my kids was a teenager then and got so sick of seeing what they did to me that she quit the faith. I took a job as an associate minister in a larger congregation. Someday I might want to try to be the number 1 again, but the way Unitarian Universalists have to always resist all authority and the way they resisted my strong womanist style just wore out my last nerve. Yes, a lot has changed. In a lot more congregations, people wouldn't try to violate my body or touch me or try to send me to another church. And every day someone says something ignorant, truly ignorant, about someone who looks like my mama or my aunties or my kids. And that takes its toll. It really does. Why do I stay? Because what we believe is what I believe. And no color owns that. And because the young people coming in are fierce. And I can't help but want to see where that goes.
Thank you, readers. Listening is how we begin, and we begin again today. Honoring these stories is the next step. How do we honor the stories and the people who told them? By making a commitment today and tomorrow to not let harm like this happen again, to the best of our ability. We commit to keep going, to keep learning, to keep listening, to keep letting that listening change us and our behavior. We commit to setting concrete goals for our congregation and achieving them. The Commission's report gives us 34 recommendations for institutional change that goes wide and deep all through our churches and our organizations. Those 34 recommendations include 117 action steps for us to take. But don't worry, we'll go one step at a time. We'll look at each one of the 117 and decide how it fits for us and how to go about it. Over the next year, maybe 2, with help from Katie and Dan and all of our leaders, I will be bringing forward the Commission's steps and recommendations. I'll bring them to you in worship, in board meetings, in committee meetings, in all the parts of our congregation and our work together. We'll think deeply about how we can do better. For now, for this on-ramp and entry point into the report, I want us to hand it back to the Commission and listen a little bit more. Here is a mini sermon for you. It's a 6-minute video from the Commission's chair, the Reverend Leslie Takahashi. In it, she sums up their journey together, what they learned in their report, and their hopes for us as a future, for our future as a faith community, that we take this work together if we are to survive as a faith community. Please, this is a 6-minute video. Please listen, and after that, we'll have our closing hymn.
It is important now for us to recognize that it is time for us to seize this moment. It is time for us to widen the circle. The people of color, the Black people, the Indigenous people in our movement are asking that this not be an exercise in chest beating and simply listening to the stories of pain without making the systemic changes needed to keep it from happening in the future. Let us do this work now. Let us widen the circle of concern. Too many times, we have marveled at our heritage, which values each life, and yet not lived up to its mandate that we treat each life as sacred. Too many times, we have taken our ideals out into the streets to be on the right side of history and have failed to do the work within our own walls. Too many times, we have wept when we heard the stories of harm done, felt indignation and resolve, and then not done the needed work to make true repair. Too many times, we have proclaimed our interdependence, our oneness, without making the changes that would allow all to survive and thrive. Too few times have we looked at the damage done when those most in need of shelter come into our sanctuaries, seeking solace, only to find a lack of hospitality and skill. Too few times have we asked those harmed how the healing they need can best be done. They know. Too few times have we lived up to the expansive, inclusive, mutually enriching view of the world, which is our true heritage. Too few times have we been willing to give up comfort to honor commitment and covenant with one another. Too few times have we recognized that this widening is essential to the survival of our beloved faith. How do we widen the circle of concern? By witnessing to the stories of those who would offer their gifts among us, and yet who too often are outside the stretch of our hospitality. How do we widen the circle of concern? By remembering that we can be of service beyond our walls and yet must also do our work within our walls. How do we widen the circle of concern? By listening rather than refuting those stories which are told at a cost and can only be honored if they lead to righteous action, dismantling oppressive practice and structures to build for this new day. How do we widen the circle of concern? By being willing to risk fear, conflict, civility, and familiar ways to embrace the integrity of deep change. How do we widen the circle of concern? By taking the learnings of this uprising time and cradling them against our hearts, knowing that this healing work is balm for the mind, heart, and spirit. Widen the circle. To recognize the gifts that our Black and Indigenous kin, our cousins of color, offer, and to treat these gifts with high regard. Widen the circle. To include our transgender siblings, those with disabilities, those with limited economic means, those who embrace our culture while still dwelling within their own. To include all who struggle to be witnessed and honored among us. Widen the circle. To let this be the last report that has to say what has been said so many times by so many generations. Widen the circle, so that all those who are weary of spirit might rest by the mighty fountains of our faith and know themselves cherished and witnessed, renewed and revived. Widen the circle, so that the living teachings we inherit might stretch out to embrace all who would dwell within this expanding perimeter. Widen the circle of concern.
Thank you. Please join together in our closing hymn, sung for us by our wonderful choir.
Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide.
Wonderful, thank you. If you want to read the report, it's available for free on the UUA website. We have copies here in church I can hand out. If you want to engage in the conversation right away, there's Beloved Conversations, which I mentioned earlier. You can get a link to that on our website and in the newsletter, and you can always join our anti-racism team at any time. Our benediction today, and feel free please to stay in this room if you'd like to talk about the service after we've closed. Our benediction is from the Chalice Lighting reading by the Reverend Mark Morrison Reed. The central task of religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. The religious community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together our vision widens and our strength is renewed. Amen.